ॐ प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः। Each chapter of the Bhagavad Gita leads us to a better appreciation of what this universe is and who we are. We have such wisdom coming to us from the Bhagavad Gita that is not supplied by regular university education. Science, which has otherwise benefited mankind a lot, is terribly short of its resources, terribly short of insights when it comes to living our life in a noble way, in a way that brings to us true happiness and satisfaction. Spirituality is concerned with ending sorrow, ending fear. Spirituality is concerned with giving us freedom. It blesses us with a sense of harmony, even when many things might be going wrong as per our usual ways of seeing. There are other ways of seeing where everything is seen to be going as per a certain divine plan. And let me hasten to add, spirituality is not about thrusting some fancy imagination into our mind. Rather, it awakens us to the reality. In real terms, our life is meaningful, it has a great goal, and you and I have a sadhana prescribed by the scriptures by which we can reach the goal. In the 8th chapter, we covered the 21st verse in the last class, avyaktaha aksharaha ityuktaha. Of the two avyaktas spoken of, the higher avyakta is the absolute reality. It is timeless, no space or time touch it, and it is imperishable, aksharaha. To understand it, to know it, is the paramagati, the supreme state. And Bhagavan Sri Krishna made that very poetic statement. It is that reaching which one does not come back. Yam prapya na nivartante, tadhama paramam mama. And we clarified that it's not some physical place where we go and then not come back. It is rather a state of freedom. That ending of fear is once for all. There is no return to fear again. There is no return to insecurity again. Therefore, this fullness, once one attains it through right seeing, is for good. Tadhama paramam. Shankaracharya also explained it. Akshara sanjnakam. In Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Gargi and Yajnavalkya have a discussion, especially at that place, this expression akshara is brought in. It does appear at other places in other Upanishads too. Imperishable. Kshara means that which decays. Akshara, that which does not decay. Tamahu paramam prakrishtam gatim. That is the highest. There is nothing above that. Going beyond it is not possible. And there is no need also. Yam bhavam prapya gatva na nivartante samsaraya tadhama sthanam paramam prakrishtam mama Vishnoho paramam padam. It is called in other Upanishads themselves Tad Vishno paramam padam. That is the supreme state of Bhagavan Vishnu. So these are partly poetic expressions, partly, of course, when you go deeper, they indicate the supreme truth itself. Now in this session, 186th class on Bhagavad Gita, in this series, online series, we are going to take up the 22nd verse. Shankaracharya holds our hand and leads us forward, says to us, Tallabdehe upayaha uchyate. Tat plus labdhi is tallabdhi. Tallabdehe upayaha uchyate. Labdhi means to get. To get this highest realization, the greatest wisdom, which is called the supreme state or place. Figuratively, it is a place. Actually, it's an understanding. How do we go there? What is the means? Upaya. That's how 22nd verse unfolds. Purusha sapara partha bhaktya labhyastvananyaya yasyantasthani bhutani yena sarvamidam tatam. O Partha, O son of Pratha, Pratha being the name of Kunti, O Partha, that supreme truth, called here now Purusha, what was called Avyakta, what was called Akshara, is now called Purusha. We will see the meaning of it when we take a look at Shankara Bhāshya in a few minutes. For now, let us say it is the supreme truth. Bhaktya labhya. After giving so much of jnana to us, Bhagavan says, your mind being what it is, unless the mind gets cleansed, the mind should get cleansed by love of God. A whole lot of spiritual seekers complain that I have negativities, I have desire, anger, jealousy, I have fear, anxiety, worry, and once all of them reduce, I will get into spirituality. You are making a big mistake. You must get into spirituality to get rid of those negativities. Don't say, after negativities reduce significantly, I will live in a spiritual way. Take up spiritual practices, especially Nama Japa itself. Repeating a mantra, repeating God's name very lovingly is a great cleansing agent. Your lust and greed, jealousy and other negativities all get washed away. When your cloth gets stained, there are certain liquids you can buy from the departmental store. In India, there is something called Vanish. You buy a bottle of Vanish, and there are 2 or 3 ways how you must treat the cloth. Maybe just put some and rub, or dip the cloth where there is a stain in Vanish, of course mixed with some water. Put a half a spoon of Vanish and 300 ml of water. In that, dip that portion of the cloth, and afterwards rub it a little. The stain has vanished. Very nice name they have given to that product. Now, mantra japa, nama japa, calling out God for help, making prayers to Him, bless me, uplift me, and so on, is one expression of bhakti. Bhakti can be experienced and expressed in many ways. There are Navavidha Bhakti, they say, 9 forms of Bhakti. In addition, there are forms of Bhakti where you do not directly worship God, you serve mankind, you serve your animals and plants, you serve God's creation, looking at it as God Himself. Jagata Ishadhi Yukta Sevanam Ashtamurti Bhrat Deva Pujanam, says Sri Ramana Maharshi in Upadesha Sara. Jagat means the universe, or for us, this world around us. To serve the world with Ishadhi, with the understanding that for me, this world itself is God. Therefore, I don't have to sit in a puja room and perform worship. I rather serve all forms of life. And that too is expression of bhakti. Bhaktya labhyaha, the Supreme Purusha, the liberating understanding is available, can be got through the practice of bhakti. And that bhakti has to be single pointed. Ananyaya. Ananya bhakti. Ananyaya bhaktya. Through single pointed devotion to God. That's how Mundaka Upanishad has that mantra, or Kathopanishad. It says, you don't get this Brahma, you don't understand Brahma by any amount of either giving lectures or listening to lectures. Nayamatma pravachanena labhyaha na medhaya na bahuna shrutena. As a powerful mantra. And then it said, Yame Vaisha Vranute Tena Labhyaha. Yam Eva Vranute. Do you opt for? Vranute is like Varana. You know, Swayamvara, where a princess chooses whom to marry. Choosing, picking up. Do you pick up God? Do you pick up spiritual wisdom as your utmost priority, highest priority? Then by choosing Yam Eva Brunute, go for God and for God only. Organize everything else in your life around that devotion to God. Yam Eva Esha Brunute Tena Labhyaha. A punchline from the Upanishads. Bhaktya Labhyaha Ananyaya. Yam Eva of the Upanishad has that word Eva. Eva means God and God alone. That is the same meaning as in Ananya. Anya means other. But here, no other. I want God. Everything else is organized or it is geared to accomplish this one goal. And who is that God? Who is that Purusha? Who is that Supreme Being? Yasya antasthani bhutani. In Him, all living beings reside. Antaha means inside. Inside Him, there are everyone. All are inside Him. And moreover, yena sarvamidam tatam. Tatam means vyaptam, pervaded. You light up an incense, in a couple of minutes, the fragrance of that incense pervades the room, the hall, the whole house. And some who have allergy to these things start sneezing and with folded hands these days say to you, please do puja, we don't mind, but don't burn incense. In many homes, they have actually stopped using incense, that is agarbatti, dhupa, and so on, for either they themselves or their children just cannot bear it. Some children get into some breathing problems when they inhale the smoke coming from incense sticks. Quite possibly, the incense sticks today have chemicals, have certain undesirable components. Perhaps there was a time in good old days where it was made with all organic stuff. But with all kinds of chemicals getting into the scenario, alas, what was earlier auspicious has now become a source of lot of trouble. Anyway, I'm explaining tatam. Just as the fragrance spreads across the house, tatam pervades, is everywhere, spreads. Likewise, this Purusha, the Supreme Being, is everywhere. There is not even a tiny space where he is not. Yena sarvam idam tatam is passive voice, by whom all this is pervaded. Or in active voice, Purusha is he who pervades all this, who is everywhere. Adi Shankaracharya helps us understand the words better. The word Purusha itself warrants an explanation. Purushaha means Puri Shayanat, the Bhashya says. Puri means in the city. The body is compared with a city of 11 gates in Kathopanishad. Purameka Dashadwaram Ajasya Vakrasetasaha. There is the mantra. The body is compared with a city of 9 gates. Navadware Pure Dehe Naiva Kurvanna Karayan, says Bhagavad Geetā. So whether it is 9 gates or 11 gates, these are some difference because of counting method. It refers to the 2 eyes, the 2 nostrils, and so on, through which we either the sense organs, we take something or leave out something. Gates. Puri. Puri means Pure. In the city, there dwells Shayana, is sleeping or is resident over there, not going anywhere. Puri Shayanat, Purusha. The supreme consciousness which we wish to know is within us. In fact, it pervades our entire being. However, we notice everything else than Purusha. And second meaning of Purusha Shabda is Purnatva. Purusha is Purna. Everything else in this universe is Alpa. Even the huge astronomical structure, it is called Laniakya. Yesterday in Times of India, in Bangalore edition at least, I guess it is same everywhere in country, Narayani Ganesh wrote a wonderful article, just giving the readers a change. Why talk about cabinet that is being formed in New Delhi? Why talk about who won or who lost in the recent elections? Why talk about matters of the world, matters of this earth, she says. And then she says, you know, she reads from some internationally eminent magazines, Nature. There's some magazine called Nature. There's much science, physics, biology, and so on. She says, now they have discovered the Earth is in the solar system. The solar system is in Milky Way, the galaxy. But the Milky Way is part of this Laniakya. And I believe that word Laniakya, is it Laniakya? Let me check here. Yes, it is. Yeah, Laniakya. Laniakya is a Hawaiian word, some language spoken in Hawaii Islands, USA. And Laniakya means the immeasurable heaven. What a name they have given to that structure, consisting of many Milky Ways or many other stars and planets around them and so on. So Narayani Ganesh who incidentally happens to be the sister of the film star Rekha. But Narayani took the path of journalism. She was a very senior journalist with Times of India, especially overseeing the column called Speaking Tree. But today, occasionally, she is a contributor to Speaking Tree. She is not overseeing it anymore. And her articles appear, and every one of them is so well written. So she says, our address has changed with a little wit and humor. Our address now is, we are living, where do you live? In Bengaluru, in Hyderabad? Do you live in San Jose? Are you living in Chicago? Somebody asks. Wait. First of all, I live in Laniakia, the immeasurable heaven. In that Laniakia, there are lots of structures. One of them is this Milky Way. And in Milky Way, there is the solar system. In that, there is the Earth. And on the Earth, such and such continent, such and such country, such and such cities, such and such area within the city and the crossroad or main road or, So we live in Laniakia. I got a new address, she says in that article. So, Purnatvat. Purusha is complete, even Laniakia is limited. It has its own boundaries. Something which has no boundaries at all is this pure Satchit. Purnatvad saparatpartha. Paraha niratishaya. There is nothing atishaya, nothing to surpass it. Yasmat purusha na param kinchit. Shankara's Bhāshya of Bhagavad Geetā echoes expressions from Upanishads quite often. For example, in Kathopanishad, there is Indriyebhya Parahyartha, Artebhya Param Manaha, Manasastu Para Buddhihi, Buddhir Atma Mahan Paraha, higher. Mahata Param Avyaktam, Avyaktat Purusha Paraha, and then Kathopanishad says, Purushat na param kinchit. Don't think it's just going on and on till infinity. No. When you reach, starting with Indriyas, then sense objects, then mind, then intellect, then cosmic total intellect, then the unmanifest, and then Purusha. When you come to Purusha, Yama says to Nachiketa, Purushat na param kinchit. Sa kashta, sa para gati. Therefore, here too the expression is Purushanna param kinchit. These four words are as though picked from a mantra of the Veda, that is Vedanta in the Kathopanishad. There is nothing that surpasses Purusha. Mata Amritanandamayi once in a certain satsang narrated a story. There was a king and he was yet to enter his court, royal court. All the ministers and generals of the army and eminent scholars and other members had come and taken their seats. And the king was to come within a few minutes. By then, a fakir. The word used is a fakir. A fakir, somebody who roams around in some very simple clothes, not very impressive character. A fakir comes and straight walks. How he got in also was a mystery, but he gets in and he goes and sits on the throne of the king. And the king is expected any moment. The prime minister gets very annoyed. Who is this intruder? And how has he sat on the chair? Simhasana. The prime minister asks, hey, who are you? The fakir just looks at the prime minister and smiles. No answer. The prime minister asks, hey, are you some very wealthy merchant somewhere in maybe neighboring country? We never met you before. The fakir says, I am above any wealthy person in the world, lady or man. The Prime Minister says, oh, are you some very eminent scholar whom lots of people adore and respect? I am above any scholar. Are you a great soldier, a great warrior? I am above any warrior. It goes on. Many other things. Are you a scientist? Are you head of state of a very powerful country on this earth? Etc. etc. And finally, the Prime Minister, nervous that the king anytime may come and will take all of us to task for letting this person go sit on the throne. The Prime Minister says, are you God? The fakir to that also says, I am above God. I am above God. The Prime Minister then says, hey, come on, don't just answer the same way to every question. There is nothing above God. The Prime Minister tries to correct the fakir. There is nothing above God. Instantly, the fakir gets up from his throne, walks down, and congratulates the Prime Minister for saying there is nothing above God. Says, you are right. If there is anything above God, that is nothing. Nothing is above God. The fakir implies something different. Nothing means to be free of ego. When you and I realize we are nothing meaning the ego is false. 1,000 ideas that you and I have about ourselves all deserve a glorious place in the dustbin. We are nothing. We are neither the winners nor the losers. We are neither good looking nor ugly looking. We are neither from higher caste nor from lower caste. We are neither white, black, brown, or any other. We are nothing. When there is total negation of thousands of ideas we have about ourselves, then we realize the indescribable, unobjectifiable truth that we are, that is the pure self. So there is nothing above God was an objection from the Prime Minister, but the fakir says, you spoke the truth now. There is nothing above God. So Purusha na param kinchit. How to get him? How to get that understanding? Sa bhaktya labhyaha. Jnana lakshanaya. Jnana lakshanaya. Shankaracharya hastens to add that true bhakti can never be divorced from jnana. True bhakti can never be something different from jnana. When there is supreme jnana, then there is surrender. When there is supreme bhakti, there is jnana. Jnana and bhakti at the higher level are one only. They are not two things. Jnana lakshana bhakti taya ananyaya atma vishaya. Earlier we gave the simple meaning. Ananya means single pointed. But Shankaracharya gives another wonderful meaning. Anya means other. Ananya means not other. Not other from what? Not other from one's own true nature. Atma Vishaya Bhakti. Atma Vishaya is adjective to Bhakti. So Ananya Bhakti is Atma Vishaya Bhakti. Atma Jnana Rupa Bhakti. Therefore, Jnana Lakshanaya. So the idea is when you understand who you are, all divisions break down, all divisions vanish. And thus, that understanding, there is only God. I too don't exist other than God. God alone is everything. And that is instantly bhakti also. On lower levels, bhakti may have its own flavor, jnana has its own flavor. But on top, they are one. Yasya purushasya antastani madhyastani bhutani karyabhutani. So Indriya Purusha, which actually is one without a second, but in the Adhyaropa, deliberate superimposition where to begin with a certain explanation is given for what we see, either the world or how we see ourselves. For all this that is seen, there has to be an explanation. Shastras do give us. They say, well, think of an unmanifest, and from the unmanifest, karyabhuta, like effects, the manifest arises. And in the manifest, there are countless forms of living beings. Bhutan. Karyam hi karanasya antarvarti bhavati. After all, everywhere, the cause is inside the effect. Karanasya antar karyam. Cause is inside. This word inside may be a little misleading. Let's see. Cause is more pervasive. Karyam, the effect. Here I have to say effect is inside the cause. Cause envelops, covers, is inside, outside, and everywhere with respect to the effect. Clay. Clay, is it inside the pot, outside the pot, or in the middle? We say, touch the pot from inside, that is clay that you are touching. Touch the pot from outside, it's clay only that you are touching. And in the middle where you cannot touch, suppose the pot is, the wall of the pot is 5 mm in thickness. All across that 5 mm, it is clay, clay, and clay only. So in clay, there is this pot. Karanasya antarvarti karyam. However, first I said, the cause is inside. Wherever there is pot, there is clay also. Is water in the waves or are waves in water? In one sense, water is in waves. Waves are an effect. Waves come and go. Water is ever present. So Shankara uses that line of thinking. Karanasya antarvarti karyam bhavati. Because in the shloka, it is said, Yasya antastani bhutani. Living beings are the effect, and they reside in the cause, in the Supreme Purusha. Yena sarvamidam pratam. Just as akasha, space, covers everything, pervades, is spread out everywhere. In that way, idam jagat purushena tatam means yaptam. Thus, Sri Shankaracharya makes things more clear to us. Sri Krishna gives to us an increased understanding, and that helps a lot in meditation. Many people want to meditate. They say, we have studied enough. Nowadays, we are not into books anymore. We just practice meditation. Your intention is good, but in all likelihood, because you stopped studying, your mind lacks certain deep understanding of whatever you are meditating on. You are using some words or you are using some techniques, you are doing certain things, you are going through step 1, step 2, step 3, or whatever, but all of them lack a certain understanding, certain vision, certain glimpse. In order to get that vision, you must keep up regular study. Do not put aside any of these most precious scriptures. Rather, revisit them. If you have not touched even one shloka of Viveka Chudamani for a very long time. Pick it up and read some verses here and there. Pick up Atma Bodha, read some verses here and there. Pick up some commentary by Pujya Swami Chinmayananda, read a couple of paragraphs. Suddenly you will find, yes, these days this insight has not been in me. At one time I had this understanding and really enjoyed it. These days I hardly think of this, but morning and evening I sit and say I am meditating. Support that meditation with even 5 minutes of study. Then the meditation goes to a higher level. Thus, after we got good amount of new guidance from Sri Krishna and from Adi Shankaracharya, we move to the next topic, and that is a new topic, a different topic. And the topic is no other than the travel of the Jivatma. The subtle body travels when the so-called clinical death takes place. Where does it go? And does it ever come back at all? The Krishna is going to say now that there are both cases of Jivatmas coming back and Jivatmas not coming back. Jivatmas go to a certain domain called Brahmaloka and eventually they get enlightened. They are a very small number though. Overwhelming majority of the Jivatmas go to this or that loka for some time and return. So he is going to say there is avritti, return, and anavritti, no return. But before that, Sri Shankaracharya gives a bit of a connection. Prakritanam yoginam pranava aveshita brahma buddhinam. Of such people who are sadhakas, who are quite advanced, they are yogis, they deserve to be called yogis. Prakrita, that is the context from in this chapter for last many verses, and especially as per the guidance given in this chapter, these yogis are to be visualized as having fixed their mind in Pranava. Pranava aveshita brahma buddhinam. They recite Om, and as they recite Om, in Om they see no other than Brahma. Pranava, this Om is Brahma. Om iti Brahma. It says an Upanishad mantra also. Om is Brahma. Om is directly talking of Brahma. It is Vachaka. And for some people whose grasp is less, it is one step below Pratika. Om is a symbol of Brahma. But Om is Brahma itself. It is a higher level of understanding. And that is yours if you are so mature. Pranava aveshita Brahma buddhinam yoginam kalantara mukti bhajam. Since they have risen so high, when they leave this body, they don't come back. They go by what is called Uttaro Marga, the northern route. So northern is one language, the name given. It doesn't have to be towards north or along the northern direction. So they rise in such a way that they don't return. Mukti bhajam, they deserve liberation. Brahma pratipattaye, in order that they may attain, accomplish Brahma. Uttaro margaha vaktavyaha iti yatra kale ityadi vivakshita artha samarpanartham uchyate. This artha, this whole message was vivakshita, was intended to be said, to be given. Ukta means said already. Vivakshita means intended to be said. Sri Krishna had in mind, in fact, All these verses, he was preparing the ground for teaching this. Vivakshita Artha, and now it is actually presented before you. Samarpana. Samarpanartham. Earlier it was an intention. Now actually it is given. You have been intending to call the new neighbor in your locality for a cup of tea. That is intention. Finally you met him during the morning walk and then said, hey, why don't you drop in? Today is Sunday. This evening, 4:30, please come have some tea and snacks. You say, and he comes along with his wife and two children. So what was intended was actually done. Like that, Sri Krishna had intended to talk about the path of no return and path of return. Vivakshitartha samarpanartham atra uchyate in the next verse. Avritti margopanyasaha itara marga stutyartha. There is mention of the path of return also. Actually, he wants to inspire us to aim at, to strive towards the path of no return. But then why should he talk on the path of return to the earth? Sometimes, in order to really effectively communicate something superior, you have to talk about something inferior, and the listener has to see that, oh, really, of these two, I would rather go for Uttara Marga, go for, not Dakshina Marga. Avritti Marga is Dakshina Marga. Anavritti Marga is Uttara Marga. There are a couple of other names also for these, as we will see in the slokas. Itara Marga Sutyartaha. So 23 goes, Yatra Kaletu Anavrittim Avrittim Chaiva Yoginaha Prayata Yanti Tam Kalam Vakshyami Bharatarshava. Oh, the best among descendants of Bharata. Bharata was one of the earliest members of this clan. Both Kauravas, Pandavas came from Bharata over a lineage. Rishabha can mean at places a bull, but in this context, it is bull, but bull means something most powerful, eminent, best. Bharatanam Rishabha, Bharata Vamshajanam Rishabha, Bharata Vamshajeshu Atyuttamaha. This Arjuna, Sri Krishna says to Arjuna, O Bharatarshava, Vakshyami, I will now tell you. I will tell you, Kala Shabda is used. We will make it clear later. More than actually the time, it is a certain symbolic language. It is to imply when a certain devata, a divine principle, associated with the certain kala, officiates, is the presiding deity at the time of someone's death. So, to make it clear right now and later we'll elaborate, someone may literally die during the dark fortnight, Krishna Paksha. But if that Jivatma has earned a lot of merit by pious, righteous living, then though he is dying, let us say, on the 4th day of Krishna Paksha, the dark fortnight of the lunar calendar, at the time of his death, the Devata that is connected with Shukla Paksha will come there. His punya, his sanskara, his inner evolution will make that happen. So Shukla Paksha Devata comes and helps him move onwards. So Shankaracharya makes that comment, Kala Shabdena Kala Abhimanini Devata. Therefore, the time is not really so literally important, but it is our punya, our having turned towards God, having turned away from egoistic pursuits in this world of names and forms. Kale tu anavrittim, avrittim cha eva yogina. For yogis of a yogi, prayataha, prayana, travel, those who travel, those who take up this last journey during certain settings, since it is not literally time, let me use the word setting. In a certain setting where particular devata is residing, one goes to Brahmaloka, never to return to the earth. From Brahmaloka itself, he gets liberated. Therefore, prayataha yanti. Those who go attain tam kalam. Yeah. Yoginaha also, first line is plural, yogis. Those of you who know some vibhakti know that yoginaha can be shashti ekavachana also, or prathama bahuvachana also. By context we have to see. Here yoginaha goes with prayataha, and especially the kriyapada yanti makes it first person plural. Yoginaha avrittim yanti. Kechana yoginaha avrittim yanti. Kechana means some, and anye kechana, others, some others, they go to anavritti, avritti and avritti. Tam kalam vakshyami bharatarshava. This way, Sri Krishna makes an introduction to this fascinating concept of the Jivatma never returning to the earth, which is not everybody's cup of tea. And then large number of Jivatmas who are also good noble souls, but they have not yet attained that level of purity. So they come back. Shankara says, Yatra Kale Prayata Haiti Vyavahitena Sambandha. So, Yatra Kale, and then second line has Prayata, that has to be connected. So we have the shloka beginning, Yatra Kale, in between tu anavrittim, avrittim, cha, eva, yoginaha, so many words have come. But Yatra Kale Prayata has to be taken together. Jivatmas Prayata, traveling at such and such time, Yatra Kale. So Vyavahita means two words which have to be together in regular prose order because of poetry and other reasons are found to be separate with a gap which is filled by other words. So Vyavahitena Sambandha. That gap is called Vyavadhana. Vyavadhana is gap. Yatra yasmin kale tu anavrittim apunarjanma avrittim tad viparitam chaiva. Anavritti is a punarjanma. There is no punarjanma. Avritti is tad viparita, means there is punarjanma. There is no rebirth, there is rebirth in this way. Yogina haiti yoginaha karminascha uchyan. In the present context, it is yogis, it is karmis who have really done a lot of satkarma, good karma. Karminastu gunataha karma yogena yogina iti visheshanat yogina. In the third chapter, it was said there are two disciplines broadly. Lokesmin vividha nishta pura prokta mayanaga jnana yogena sankhyanam karma yogena yoginam. So the connection of yogis with karma yoga was spelled out in the third chapter. Yatra kale prayataha mritaha yoginaha anavrittim. Prayataha is said traveling, and here word is mritaha. Upon death, one begins to travel. Anavrittim yanti. Yatra kale cha prayataha avrittim yanti. Tam kalam vakshyam. I will tell you the time. Because in the next two slokas, Agnir Jyotiraha Shuklaha Shanmasa Uttarayanam. All descriptions of time, when fire is burning, when some lamp is burning, and daytime, let us say, the sunlight is available, and then Shukla Paksha, or the 6 months of Uttarayana, all specification or direct meaning is the time, but that would be disastrous. Everybody who is born in those 6 months of Dakshinayana gets a lower destination. All those who die in Uttarayana go to higher. If it's taken so literally, while Dakshinayana and Uttarayana do have certain significance, but if you stretch it so far, then it will be rather unacceptable. Lots of Mahatmas, lots of illumined people, lots of highly evolved Jivatmas have died in Dakshinayana. Just because they died at that time, the mere time, the month and the Ritu and the Tithi, etc., you can't say they go to a lesser place. And just because certain others died in Uttarayana, though they might not have reached the higher levels of purity, just seeing they have all died in Dakshinayana, to think that they'll go to Brahmaloka straight will also be unacceptable. So, Sri Shankaracharya writes, Tam kalam vakshyami bharatarshaba. And then 24 and 25 actually mention what are those time periods, arthat, what are those settings in which the presiding deity of that devata comes and oversees the passage to the other worlds. So we will see these 24 and 25 in the next class. And now we pause. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.